Alright, I wanted to take a minute to just review the Sarasota County Property Appraiser website. Property Appraiser websites are for most counties and cities throughout the nation, and these websites are just providing you information on every piece of property or parcel in your town, and that includes business addresses and residential addresses. So what I wanted to do was actually just take a second to show you guys how to search on the Property Appraiser site, and also the type of information that you sometimes will extract from these records. You can see the website is this sc-pa.com with property search. Here is the actual home page. And then you have the real property search. To find these pages, you can simply usually just type in a town such as Sarasota and Property Appraiser, and it'll bring you right to their site. So you can see on here there's a couple different ways that you can search for a property. The one nice thing is they do make it very simple to search for properties. For instance, if you just start typing a property address in, and we could just, let me just come up with an address. As you start typing in numbers, you can see all these addresses pop up. So you could just click on one of those, then click on search, and you will get the property information showing here. Another thing you could do is if you knew the owner's name. For instance, if you started typing in somebody's name, it's going to have names that pop down. If you wait a second there, and then if you wanted to just click on a name and hit search, you will actually get results as well. So this person actually has 4 properties attached to their name. So if we want to click into one of these properties, we're going to go into this 2163 Hibiscus. What you can see here is we have the ownership of the property. So these are the 2 owners. You have a Paul Peterson and a Helen Magill or Magill. But usually you always have that last name is showing up first, followed by their first name and maybe a middle initial or a middle name. So if this actually read Paul White, the name would most likely be Paul Peterson, and White being the middle name, which we typically will ignore. But the other information on here that's important is the address directly below the names is their mailing address. So this is the owner and how you reach the owner. This is the actual property address. So if I go back real quick to these results, there's a good chance that we can see this one will show differently. Okay, so on this one, Paul is the only owner. Here is that address we were just looking at, which is his mailing address. And now you can see that this is the property address for the record we're looking at right now. Over here on the right, this tells us how much property that you get with this piece of property. So this is 11,000 square feet, so about a quarter acre. You can see the subdivision or the neighborhood that the property is in. This one is in Sunnyside Park. You can see what the zoning is, residential single family, the parcel description, which will typically get put on contracts or documentation, legal documentation. And then right here under building, this is the property information such as the bedroom and bathroom count, along with the age of the home and the living area, which is square footage. Below here is if there's a pool, shed, workshop, anything like that, detached garage. Those will usually show up under extra features. These are what the assessed values of that property are over the past, say, 9 to 10 years. And then under here we have sales and transfers. So we can see that this property last sold in March 2016 for $240,000. The seller was Janet Finazzo, and she sold it to Paul Peterson. So prior to that, Gilda sold this property to Janet for $175,000. So that's how you would read this. And then at the very bottom, you actually have a flood zone determination, which is very useful, good information to have. And you can see this one's in a flood zone of X. That's sometimes important for us to read this to see if it's the X AE or X500. And if you really want to see how it looks on the property, you can click on the map now, and it's going to bring up a FEMA flood map and actually show us with our property where the water is. And on this one, we didn't have any, we're not in a flood zone. But if we zoom out, you'll see where we can actually start to see water and flood zone areas. Like this green, for instance, is considered flood zone. So our property is actually just outside. It looks like if we were a couple houses over and up a street, we could be sitting in a flood zone. So this property right here, for instance, and you can see what's nice, I can click on this map. I could actually click on property detail page, and it's going to bring me back into the property appraiser for that record. But this record, we scroll down here, so this one's even showing that it's in a flood zone X as well. But this is some of the information that we like to pull off of these records. The main information that I usually will always need when I'm reviewing this is going to be the owner of a property, their mailing address, and the site address. Sometimes I might need the bedroom, bathroom count, living area, and also the prior sale amount, which I just went over. And then up top, we have a couple other things I'll point out. We can see the tax bill for this property. So if we wanted to just quickly see what the taxes were for this property for the current or previous year, we can load up the tax collector site and see here's a record of that, and the taxes were about $1,400. So I'm going to close that out. We have a print summary, which is if you'd want to just print a PDF of this record, and then map, which is a little bit different than the flood map I just showed you, but this is an actual property appraiser map. It's very detailed. It will zoom into the property like you're seeing now, and it allows us to actually drag around and look at other properties too. So if you wanted to just start getting a little bit nosy and clicking around on other properties to see who some of these owners are to research, you can do that as well. And I'm going to use this one as a quick example for one other thing I wanted to go over. And the reason being is I see that's a company that owns this. So if I go to this record for this property, we have the owner is an LLC. Something I like to do is I like to go to the sunbiz.org website, which is the Secretary of State for Florida. You can type in and search for a business name and then find out who the actual personal owner is. So that's sometimes taking that extra step to do that research and find out that personal owner. But this is the main information that we like to search for when we look up a property. Again, you can type in an address, you can search by owner name, and usually that's the important information that I like to search by. Usually I've got an address I can provide you or the name of a person to search for these records. And that is how we search in Sarasota County, which will include areas such as Sarasota, Nokomis, Northport, Venice, and Osprey. Also, at this time, there are some new neighborhoods being built in Lakewood Ranch, so there might be a few addresses in the Lakewood Ranch area that might be searchable under the Sarasota County Property Appraiser site as well. Please let me know if you happen to have any questions about this, but I hope that was helpful, and now you understand how to use the Property Appraiser site for Sarasota County. Thank you for watching.